hot second. Cool. Okay. We should be now live. We should now be live with some Link's Awakening. Yeah. Hi. How's it going? I should be able to actually beat the game today. Because we only have 2 dungeons left. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Thorin. Hey, Karina. Can10. Jack. Hey, Gio, what's up? How's it going? The health spa. We haven't been there in a while. I think I have an item I might be able to give the person there. Let me check it out. What's up, QWERTY? How's it going? Little secret. 28 rupees? Sure, why not? Thank you. Is that it? Okay. I won't sell it to you. Alright, because I already have it. Cool. Just gonna ruin all of the pots in her home and then just leave. Okay, so, yeah, like I said, we should be able to beat this today. I only have 2 dungeons left. I am gonna... I can just... Wait, where am I at? I was gonna check out the trendy game store. Is it a store? I don't know. I was gonna check out the trendy game place because they've been updating what's there every so often, and we just beat the color dungeon in the last stream, so I think there might be something new. You're sick? That's unfortunate. That's always rough. Okay, anything in here? Anything new? Anything I can buy? Whole lot of nothing. That thing right here is a lot of money. Yeah. 1,280? I'm not buying that. Alright. And how about here? Well, there's a seashell. We tried this last time, but I could try again. It fell too far for the crane to even get, so hopefully it's not going to do that. Let's try this. Come on. So close. Yeah, so far. Okay, that wasn't actually close, but try again. I just wish it was a little faster to let us try again, you know? Come on. Okay, well. Yeah, I think this is already a fail, because watch, it's going to push it over to the left. Okay, it's back on. Well, okay, maybe there's a chance. The seashell's so annoying. Try now. There's such delay between when it drops and when it actually like picks up, so maybe? Nope. Nope. Not quite. Okay, I'm just not gonna bother with that. I'll try the rupee. I always try the rupee. The rupee's so much easier because it's like not going back and forth. Okay, you know what? I think I actually goofed that up, but we'll see. Anyways, so yeah, I hope everyone's having a good Thursday. Personally, I woke up not long ago. I did some work on the Minecraft video. Don't know when that's gonna come out, but yeah, that's the thing. And I think it's gonna be interesting. We'll see. But some people were asking about Untitled Goose Game, the game that just came out. I was actually thinking of picking that up. Could be for a fun stream. I don't know. This is pretty much a rarity to have me do 4 streams in like less than a week, but I don't know. It's been neat. I sort of like music, eh? Frog named Mamu, who lives in the signpost maze, might know some new songs. We charges a lot to play them. Bye, click. Alright, well, thanks. The sign maze. I think yeah. It's, here, right? That's good to know. I need the ocarina. We haven't talked to Marin in a while, so let's go check out what's up over there. My favorite color? I like blue. Might be able to guess. For multiple reasons, but yeah, I like blue. But yeah, everyone keeps talking about the ocarina. It's like, well, where the hell do I even get it? Maybe from Marin. I mean, I feel like she'd be the one to know where to get an instrument like that. But yeah, she's been here singing to the animals for a bit, I'm pretty sure. Or she's gone, maybe. Okay, well thanks, Rabbit. This is a new person. I don't think they were here before. I worked so hard and now my broom is worn on the handle. Okay. Well, I don't have anything about a broom. I don't know what... I have a stick, I'm pretty sure. Well, where did Marin go? Turning into a carrot? That'd be pretty rough. Oh, hi. Oh, hibiscus. Okay, you want that. Okay, how sweet. Request? Sure. Letter to Mr. Wright, who lives on the border of the mysterious forest. Okay, I can do that. This kind of let down. The frame drop is too frequent. Really? I really haven't noticed many frame drops personally. And I don't know if it's worse docked versus undocked. Go away. Alright, cool. That was good chat. Good chat. What's up, Camden? Flying Rooster? I have not. I think it's the first I heard of that. Okay, let's go hand the letter. I do believe I know exactly where Mr. Wright's house is. Been there once before. I'm doing okay. Okay, so we're gonna go... Which is the better way? I guess this way's probably fastest. I'm doing pretty good. The weather's not bad today. Got some decent sleep. Good sleep is hard to come by. Gotta say. Almost got the fish, not quite. Really? So you can see we only took a quarter heart because of our new fancy blue mail that we're wearing. Here we go. Mr. Wright, I do believe. I have a letter for you. I wonder if this stuff is slightly tilted. No, I don't believe it is, personally. For a couple reasons. They don't actually... Well, what? 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 That's such a random inclusion. Why is Princess Peach here? Okay. So beautiful, I must give you something for your trouble. Broom! Okay. Oh yeah, I know where to take that. But that photo's not of... okay. Alright then. That's not weird at all. Is there a, is there a shortcut portal over here anywhere? Oh, she pretended to be Peach in the original game? Oh, gotcha. It's so random, though. Okay, well, maybe not. I think there's supposed to be one in the forest somewhere, but I haven't seen it. But we'll look around a little more. It'd be nice to have a shortcut. Like, I think there's supposed to be one under a rock or something. I don't know. How do you like the remake? I've been enjoying it. It's a lot more fun to play this than the. Oops, I already messed it up. Oops. Whatever. Are there warps? Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a warp somewhere, but I don't know. I could have swore someone told me that there was, or maybe I just imagined that. Really? Would you say to get this or Breath of the Wild? I don't have either. I'm just gonna get one. Okay, so personally, I feel like you'd probably get more playtime out of Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is more like a playground compared to this, but in terms of a more finely tuned experience, this would be better, if that makes sense. Oh. But yeah, so it depends on what you're looking for, honestly. Looking to be able to get more out of it in terms of playtime than probably Breath of the Wild. If you're trying to get more of a, I don't know, Zelda experience, this one is probably better. Make sense? Yeah, this is much more traditional than Breath of the Wild. Are you sad you can't use the D-pad? I really don't care that much. Hey, look, I can do that with the D-pad. That's cool. That's something. All right, broom, broom. We can turn into broom, broom. Here you go. A new broom for me. Yes, it is. Ta-da. Oh, in return, I have this fishing hook I found when I swept by the riverbank. I know who needs that. I need to go underneath the bridge next to the castle, I believe. So it's just over there. There's a nice portal right there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm thinking of, because he's in like a 2D section. Yeah, it is weird that they don't allow you to use the D-pad to control Link in this, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. Okay, so can I go this route? Oh wait, not under the. Sorry, not under that. Well, there is a bridge I can go under. Is it this one? I do not recall. Or is it? There's under. Yeah, there is a bridge somewhere. I just don't remember which bridge. Oh no, wait. I think it's this one actually. I think it's that one. So I'll go down a sec. Because I remember it being a bridge. I just couldn't remember which bridge. Ooh. Oh, hi, mermaid. I don't know if I've talked to you before. Necklace from around my neck. Find it. I'll let you take a scale from my tail. Okay, well that's weird, but okay. Cool. Good to know. Am I going the right way? No, I'm not. Here we go. Excellent. A little bit of, yeah, there we go. Okay. Fishing hook. I'll give you my next catch if you let me have it. Okay. Keep your eyes open and watch a pro at work. That's a big one. Check it out. Fancy that. We got a necklace. All right, sweet. What a small world. Back we go. That's my necklace. Give it back. I'll give you a scale, as I said. Okay, that was a little weird, but I got a scale from a mermaid's tail. How will I use this? I don't know. Okay, neat. So who wants a scale? I have no idea. Someone somewhere wants a scale, that's for sure. But we got that. We could go over here now, by the way. Can I take this route? We could go this way. Not too far. The mermaid statue? I don't know. Oh, is it this person? Like the one making statues? Is that what you're talking about? There's only statue thing I can think of. I don't know if he said mermaid specifically. No, it's by the bridge? Oh! You mean this thing? Okay. Sure. Nah, I think I see what you mean. We'll go across this way. Whoops. Ow. Just everything hurts. Yeah, I have not seen this before now. I put the missing scale in the mermaid statue. And it opens! Oh. Neato. Ow? Is there invisible stuff? Okay, that's not good. Alright, well this is how we're going through the dungeon now. Magnifying glass. I'm assuming. Yeah, oh, lens. Okay. Reveal many things you couldn't see before. Sweet. Oh, is it just, it's just a passive item? Electric pickle guys? I don't, like Buzzblorbs or something like that? I don't really know, actually. Can I see now? Now I can see them. What the hell are those? Creepy, but okay. Buzzblobs. Ah, there you go. Well, I was like one letter off. Okay, so I can now see invisible stuff, which is neat. What I do with that? I don't know. But it's something. That's for sure. Ow. Okay, so we did that. I want to go over there. Do I? Well, no. I need to get there, so I need to teleport to there. We'll run across real quick. Oh god, so many things. Because I don't know if I recall anything about the unseen, you know? I'm not sure if we've run into something like that. Where they're like, oh, I can't, I'm blind, I can't see anything, it's invisible. Alright, here we go. Yeah, at this point we've seen most of the map, so there's not a whole lot of places to go. Aside from places we've, like, walked past. Oh, did that went down? Okay. Oh god. All right. Hello. Looks like you don't know squat about music. Oh! How many dungeons? I've done 5 plus the color dungeon. Dang it! I still need to know more about music. And I don't know how to learn about music. By the way, I think I did this off screen. I don't actually remember. Hey, what's up, Carson? I need to become big brain music time. Pretty much. Okay, well, we can talk through another hint tree and see what they say. Because I do not have the ocarina. Everyone keeps talking about the ocarina, but I don't know where to get it. The flying rooster. We used to give us rides and we held it above our heads. Lying under the weather vane. Can I, what, pick up the weather vane and push it now that I have the gauntlets? Is that the thing? Is that the secret? I just got a hint. Yeah, see, okay, there you go. I don't know if this was something I could have done earlier, but I'm doing it. Okay, well now this is a little awkward. Can I just borrow this priceless artifact? Need the ocarina for this? Oh my god. Okay, someone please tell me, where the hell do I get the ocarina? Like, I'm tired of hearing about it. Like, ah! The Dream Shrine in Mabe Village. Okay. I don't know what that means. The Dream Shrine? Is it... Oh, okay, here we go. We got the gauntlets, but never interacted with this building, did we? My god. I am losing my mind. Yeah, okay. Okay, this is familiar. I remember going to sleep in the original. But I did not know that was from right here. Okay, we're doing things. Oh, you know, would these have been invisible if I didn't have the magnifying glass? 'Cause I'm sort of like getting that feeling. No? Okay, well. No, these are visible? Well, okay, never mind then. Can you not? For half a second? Oh my god. Why could I jump past the others, but not these? Well, okay, whatever. I'll just jump backwards, I guess. Like, it's so random, like... Make up your mind. Can I... You can dash through them. Okay. Like, it was like half the time working on whether or not I could actually... Alright. Yeah, it was like, it was letting me jump through all of these. Ooh, that was a triple. But it wouldn't let me jump through these. I don't understand why. Another triple. Well, this is awkward. Okay, well that's a little awkward. Oh god. Okay, you know what? Maybe we'll just restart. All right. Yeah, like I said, it was letting me jump through, so I thought that's what I could do, but it got a little weird. Money! Why didn't you get the red tunic? Because everyone and their mother was yelling at me to get the blue tunic. And I wanted to get a blue tunic, because blue is my favorite color. I learned the ocarina, and now everyone can stop talking about it. What does it do? I don't know! Yep, there you go. You play it's ocarina, but you know how to play it. Well, that's good, Javier. I don't... I'm not really interested. I got it. I'm not gonna change it. You know what, kid? This is what I say. Alright, well, that was awkward. Alright, let's go back there. Learn about music. That music hurts my ears. Do you want to hear it again? I mean, the blue tunic is literally about extra defense, so I don't know what you guys are complaining about. It's okay. Literally anything I do in this game is not good enough for people watching. Like, oh, you didn't do everything? You didn't get everything I want you to get? Ugh. It's like, come on, man. Like, come on. Mamu on vocals. Everyone, hang out and listen to us jam? Sure. 300 rupees? Ooh, that's extortion, but okay. What a wonderful tune. Encores, Croak. Ta-da! We learned the Frog's Song of Soul. It can even liven up unliving things. You'll make everything around you feel more alive. Interesting. Can I use it anywhere in the world? Oh, I see. Neato. Okay, so there's that. Oops. Did I put any markers down? There was a couple other instances of Froggos that we couldn't interact with. Is that what that third song is? Well, I guess. I mean, got it. If it livens up unliving things, let's try that at the graveyard, because that could be interesting. Oh yeah, up the ladder. Yeah, I really like games that have marker systems, because oh, I don't know where Marin is. Let's try to unliving the living stuff. Or let's living the unliving stuff. See what happens. Whole lotta? Nothing. I tried. I thought I'd be a smart boy and try. But how about the big boy? I mean, they're ghosts, you know? Marin left and took the kids. Marin, bring them back! They're my kids too. Okay, Game Awards? I don't know, maybe. It's a fun game. There is stuff. There is somewhere, someplace. Okay, well, whatever. The dog village. I can go to the dog village. Rate the game? Nah, I'm okay. You found an unliving thing in Mape Village, didn't you? Did I? Question mark? I don't know if I even found such a thing, but I could check. Yeah, I just don't know where Marin is at this point, because I last had her, or last took her, well, before she took the kids, I took her to the Animal Village, and then she was playing a song for them, and now I don't know where she is. That ghost is my dad. Oh, it's so sad. She's at Animal Village. Alright, well. Cool. So she's in the place that I saw that she wasn't? Like one of the buildings, I guess? I can go look again. Hello. I'll play music for you. Liven up the place. Utter disappointment. What does the Link amiibo do in this game? It gives you a chamber for the chamber thing. Alright, calm down. I'll go to the beach. I'm going to the beach. You guys happy yet? I'm at the beach. Oh, actually, can I knock this monkey off? Because, like, I got the Pegasus boots, so. Got him! Suck it, monkey. Look at all these things. Okay, I wasn't paying attention. Look for the tree stump at the beach. Okay, well. One of these things. Backtrack a sec. Oh, here we go. I'll walk right past it. Oh, hi. I found a good item washed up on the beach. Trade for you for what you have in your X or Y button. If you don't want to trade, don't press it. Yeah, okay, whatever. Boomerang. Okay, well. Do you want a fairy bottle? I really don't care about a fairy bottle. Don't give me that item. How about something else? Well, that's mean. You want magic powder? I'll give you magic powder. He is so rude. You can buy back the item? Okay, that's good. Okay, let's do it. Boomerang! Neato. I'll buy it. I got the boomerang! Cool. Favorite Zelda game? I like Banjo-Kazooie a lot. Banjo-Kazooie? It's such a... That's my default answer for favorite game. I wasn't paying attention. Majora's Mask, I meant to say. For Zelda. My favorite Zelda's Banjo. Whoops. Alright, so throw anywhere we want. Even comes back. Comes back, you say. Not if I run away from it. Oh god. Ah! Alright. Enough of that. You have sunscreen? No. Do you? Banjo-Kazooie R Smash. Whoa, no way. I've never heard of that. Yeah. Okay, people keep saying something about tree stump. I don't know what you're talking about for that. But we got boomerangs, that's cool. Let me go back real quick. I'm trying to think, where the hell did I run into? I like the part where when Zelda came out of Link's backpack and said, "Wee woo." Same here. Same here. I don't know where else I ran into a frog. I know it's somewhere, I just don't know where. I don't want another Link in Smash. We need 6 links. All links. Every link. All the links. Whom do you want to smash? I really don't have a preference. Like, I'm fine. I'll take whatever. I think Minecraft Steve would be cool. I've given up, like, looking around, so I'm gonna keep checking. I'm gonna keep checking this. Flying Rooster. Oh, that's right. In the good old days, they used to give us rides. Yeah, okay. We have a song. We could play a song. It's the undead thing. That's what you meant. I have the memory of a goldfish apparently, and goldfish actually have good memories. So I have the memory of a of a slightly okay fish. So, back here. No! We don't need Steve! I'll have you know, I think it'd be cool. That's just me. There you go. Oh, look at that! I'm gonna Muzak him alive. What? The rooster has recovered. He seems very friendly. I'm just flying around now. Okay, well, I'm gonna take you with me. Whee! Can I hit it? I don't want to. Look at this. Look at this boy. Whee! You should visit the fish. Yeah, but what do I want to play with Rooster Boy. What is he up to? Can you pet any dogs? I don't believe there are any dogs you can pet. I really don't know what the point of this is, but I have. Oh, you cannot damage him. I'm just gonna bring him with me. All right, so where you said there's a fish? I already forgot. I'm sorry. Is this Untitled Goose Game reference? No. Can he warp with me? Because he followed me out. I doubt he will, but... Tall heights. Okay, okay. Whee! He's coming with! Yeah, no, for real. I have no idea why we have him with me, but I'm just glad I do. No, not tall mountains. What? Tall heights. Oh, damn it. Okay. Back we go. Come on, buddy. We need a name for him. I don't know if he has a name, but we need a name for him. The fish. Oh, okay. Right. Now I remember. I wonder, can he swim? Well, we're gonna test it out, okay? Mr. Burb? Alright, Mr. Burb it is. Let's go, Mr. Burb. Wait. I'll go this. Rivali? That's a good name, but ow. Well, he didn't take damage, so I'm okay. Oh god, Mr. Burb, help me! That was awkward. Oh, cool! I don't fall in. This is way faster. Okay, don't even start with me, Creeper. I don't want to hear it. Like, none of that is allowed in this stream. I have an ocarina. I can teach my song. Glub it up, dude. Oh, so angry. I can't hear her. Okay, that's a good song. I like this song. I don't like how his eye moves around. It's creepy. Manbo's Mambo. When you get out of the water, play it. Okay. You can warp to a warp point around the island. Ooh, nice. I'll let you warp to Mambo's Pond too. Cha cha cha. Well, thank you. This is the song you can play at the old guy. The old guy in the house. Okay. Crap. I went back in. These fish are cheap. Buddy. Why do you keep calling it techno? That's not techno at all. None of that's techno. Alright, I could teleport now. Well, that's cool. I warp you. Warp with me, bird. Hen house on the mountain? I don't know of the hen house on the mountain. There is a cave nearby with some important in it. Buy click. Hen house? Mountain? I'm assuming it's like up in this area. I've yet to be able to get here. Oh no, it's talking about this. Right. Okay, now I have been here. Do I have to take Mr. Burb with me? Let's go. Come on. Fly with me. Okay, so the quickest way up there is this way, I'm pretty sure. Maybe it's faster to backtrack through. I'll go this way. Forwards on to victory. Oh my god, I could climb ladders with him? It's even better. Alright, cool. Oh, progress. I like the art style. I think it's really cute. Your path is not easy, but you're almost there. Go east, the windfish is getting restless. You can't make me. We're going to the rooster house. I know he follows me, but I wanna fly around everywhere. Now, how does this work with? Oh, I can just fly over these. All right, sweet. That's neato. Oops. Oh my god, you're so annoying. Follow me, rooster. Is that Hoot from Super Mario 64? Maybe. Who knows? Whoops. Almost threw him into a pit. That would have been bad. Money! Money's cool. Alright. Onwards. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not. I just, like, I don't know. Who knows? Almost there. Yeah. Fly hacks are not allowed on the Minecraft server, sorry. Oh, he's on the roof now. That was a whoops. Amazing! That rooster is actually flying! It's like I said. Have you tried holding him overhead? Well, I have. Yeah. Don't you even with me. Oh my god. I already did! Why did I come here? Except... Okay. Cave nearby? Okay, okay. Okay, okay. I wasn't paying attention. Cave nearby? Is it this one down here? Come on, little buddy. Onwards. Ah, here we go. Ah, okay, cool. Get the bird key. I heard that bird is the word. Annoying I can't go through screen transitions while holding them. Alright, let's also go this way. Why not? Or is this just the same thing from the other one? Okay, yeah, it's just like this is the secret, like you could have this too if you're good. Alright, bird, let's go. We're going shopping. Alright, so the key's right there, I do believe, but go in here. Okay, never mind. Go this way though. Fly with me, old bird. Stuart Little? Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. I remember the movie Stuart Little. That's it. Oh, just the movie Stuart Little? It's a weird concept. Yes, we're gonna adopt this mouse. It is now our child. We're gonna treat our child and this mouse the exact same. That's not child abuse at all. Definitely not. Okay, so can I just teleport over, can't I? I've already been there because I went there with the hook shot. I like how he spins with me at the same time. So cute. Okay, is it this way? Wait, crap. Is it this one? Or the one to the right? I don't know, he just asked about Stuart Little. Please don't hurt me. Okay. I don't know. I can't remember if I'm going backwards or not. I think I'm going backwards, but... Oh, okay, now I am. Whoops. Why is Stuart Little's... He's a mouse? Like, what do you... What kind of question is that? Of course he's a mouse. Or of course he's small, because he's a mouse. I think it'd be terrifying if Stuart Little was 6 feet tall. That'd be really unsettling, if I'm being honest. Alright, bird. You're here. You were big. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Ta-da! Oh yeah, best time. Well, okay. Don't say that like that, because now I'm worried. Alright, bird, let's go. You and me. Is he just like the escort for this entire dungeon? That's like, oh, he didn't come in. Well, maybe not. I was thinking maybe he was going to be, but oh well. I will throw this pot at you, I swear to God. Don't even start with me. I think he just came up with a horror movie. A key. Is this your favorite 2D Zelda? No, I like Minish Cap the most in terms of 2D Zeldas. Really enjoyed that game. Quite a lot. Can I do something stupid? Like... Oh, interesting. These go over despite it not... Oh, weird. I know you're not supposed to go like this way, but I'm like, if I could, that'd be really cool. Whatever, let's go backwards. Oh, one of these. Oh, there's the ball. I think I remember something about this. This over? No, I can put it there. You found a glitch. Ooh, nice. Ow. That didn't hurt at all. I can never remember which way these go. Can you not? Right here? Oh. I did it. I did the thing. At the tower? Oh, okay. Sure, why not? I thought Ball Senpai would just follow me forever. Oh, that's right. Boomerangs. Aha. Yeah, someone mentioned that in an earlier stream. I do see the weakness now. Now that you pointed out. What does that do for me? I'm just gonna bring the ball with me. Because why not? Alright. Alright, can I take the ball with me? Ah. Cheats. Okay. Well, that's not really helpful. Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure what was gonna happen, but I guess that's an option. Wait, what? Oh. Oh. I can get the ball to like stay on my head. What's the inspiration for the channel called DPadGamer? I needed a name, and DPadGamer is the only thing I could come up with, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Come on. I can't jump over it. That was the opposite of helpful. Same thing as before. Oh my god, this is so annoying. Just land on my... Okay, whatever. You know what? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, game. It's so annoying. Can't jump over it. Like, it's supposed to be the same size as me, right? Yeah. Yeah, there's really no rhyme or reason for it. Yes. I'm damaging the structural integrity of this entire dungeon. I'm just gonna leave it like this. Oh. Oh my god, you see that? Kirby! It's Kirby! We found Kirby, guys! Oh my god, he's so cute. Look at that little Kirby. Oh, this, okay. Go this way. Nope, back up. Go this way. No, back up. Well, I think I goofed myself. Oh, interesting. It's a really dumb shape. As in, it's literally just a rectangle. Womp womp. Back to square nothing. I love his tippy taps when he runs across the floor. I just think it's a great sound. Oh my god. It just kills them? Wait, it didn't kill him that time. What's up with that? That's weird. Hey, what's up, Havik? Well, back here again. Please don't. Not with this garbage. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it down. Whoops. It's so close yet so far. So just scroll the screen. Okay. That's a platform. Why? I don't know. What happened? Dang you, 8 directions. Okay, anyways, we can go around this way. Go up the stairs. We can also go over. Actually, if we, this is the. Okay, cool. Go upstairs. I can go through here. Oh, one of these, okay. Dang, dungeon, you got me good. You got me so good. Cool. Ow! Get off me. Man, fairies are everywhere now. What? Oh, I'm mad. Really just gonna do that to me? Really? That's so uncool. It's so uncool. Yeah, it's rewind time. Oh, it's just sad time. Sad time USA. Get out of my face, Curd. I don't want to hear it. Whoops. Yeah, let's just go up this way. Goomba! Get out of my face. Hate you, Kirby. Part of the problem. You can still push the block out of the way? One second. I hate that so much. I hate that mechanic. Alright. That's it. Well, look at that. You're right. Whoops. Oh, dude, Link running ASMR is my favorite kind. Compass. Cool. Over the wall. Oh, yeah, okay. The long way around. Man. Oh, right. Okay, this way. It's a long way. Wait. I have an idea. Can you... Kirby, can you suck me up? Kirby, do it. Kirby, do it. I want to try something. Do it, Kirby! I know I could walk around, but I want to see if you could, like, suck me through... That sounds weird. If you could suck me up through the wall. And it's not really a wall, but you get what I mean. Come on. Come on. Aim at me, dang it. Aim at me. Oh. Okay, no, you just run into the wall. Okay, well, I had to try. You know how it goes. Hate you, Kirby. Can't let me glitch stuff. Everything to do. Oh, we haven't been in here before. I'm just gonna like, okay, cool. I did not say it like that. I said suck me through the wall. Got a key. Come on, bro. Okay, try that again. Dang it. Got hit, and that makes it a little hard. Did it. I did the thing. Walking the long way around. Okay. Actually. Get back down here and fight me like a man. Nothing? Alright, cool. I love walking in circles. The actual layout of this place is awful. This whole dungeon sucks. That's just the it's just the light. Best dungeon? Don't even with me. Ooh. Hey, Runt, you think you take me? Alright, boy. Let's get this punk out of my face. Oh, boy. Okay, I have to take them all out. Oh, oops. Oh, I could use my sword. Never mind. I thought like, all right. Oh, I swear one just went right past me. Because I didn't attack it, but it looked like it was too far away. Alright, there. Whoa, got it. That was such a dumb... Okay, mini boss, I guess. Cool. Ah. God, so much walking. Tap ruse. Tap. Yeah. How I feel, buddy. Thought they'd make this dungeon better. Joke's on you. I know you need to jump down on at certain parts, but like, that doesn't tell me a whole lot. There's many parts I could jump down on. Why did I even go up there? What happens if I use this on a pot? Oh, okay. Really? Okay, well... Back to the warp? Oh, I can go back to the warp. Alright, calm down, like, doing it. I did it. I did the thing. Yeah, it's been a long time since I streamed. So that's where the ball is. Back here again. Oh my god. We get there again? Through that door. I need to take this thing. Walk down. Take that one. Dumb Kirby. Oh my god, there we go. Oh my god, I'm stupid. I just noticed this. I just noticed this. You play the original? All the way through. Really? You got a bomb? Well, that's just rude. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that works too. Is it fun? I've been having fun with it. I managed to... Is this even difficult? I'm just like walking around and doing stuff. Oops. Oh, this spawned the chest, right? I remember that right? Yeah, okay. We don't really... I can go over here. Haven't done that before. You miss it and then you feel so dumb because you have to wait for it to come back. Nothing. Can I throw a bomb over these balls? Oh yeah, okay. Oh! Mirror shield! Now you can turn back beams! Oh, I did not... Okay, I didn't expect it to just be right there. But sure. Cool. Beams. Didn't expect. Yeah, my birthday is on October 15th. We're not too far away. Oh, okay. We're gonna go this way first. Dungeon Builder gets boring easily. Yeah, I'm not surprised. What's more depressing, Majora or Zelda? Or sorry, Majora or Twilight Princess? Definitely Majora. I don't think Twilight Princess is all that depressing or even really all that dark. E. Oh, okay. Got him. Cool. We have a key now, so we can unlock that thing up. Oh. Oh, happy birthday. Well, we're here. So that's cool. Guess we'll just go up. I don't really know what we're supposed to lock that for. Yeah, Majora's Mask 3D is really cool. If I just steal these? Oh, you know what? Last time I pushed them away. Do I push them towards? Is that the secret? Oh, it is, yeah, okay. Oh, okay, Nightmare Key. Sweet. Well, how do I even get there? Through that doorway? I'm gonna leave that as it is at the moment. Come back if I need to. Yeah, I can see all the comments. I'm just not responding to all of them. I just realized why they're... Stop pushing me, please. And boomerang is strong. I did the thing. Okay. Stop hurting me. So... activate. I haven't been up at all. That's my first floor. Oh yeah, there is. I keep... Can't exactly like fall from there. You know, every time there is an obnoxious chest somewhere, it's almost always a bird beak, and I really don't care about bird beak. What Zelda game do you want? I want a Minish Cap remake. That'd be really cool, I think. Oh, I could fall there to get that chest. I think Minish Cap is really cool. Underrated game. No, quite a few people played Breath of the Wild and followed along with the glitches. Oh, seashell. Cool. Yeah, this art style would be great for me. At least I think so. Bird beak, watch it. Always the goddamn bird beak. It's always the bird beak. Always. Without fail. It is always the most disappointing thing. I have you forsaken, would be. Fans in Smash? People can finally shut up about it. That's something. Jump off the floor above, treats a chest on the table. I don't even... I don't want to hear it, Birdbeak. So unhelpful. So I've hit pretty much every chest there. So now it's just like this stuff to deal with. So... Go up. Oh, oops. Awkward. I'm gonna use a teleport. Oh, actually, can I use a... I can start. Okay, so from here, oh no. Creepiest Redead? I always thought the ones in Wind Waker were pretty creepy. Yeah, I just don't get how I'm supposed to get over this thing. As if it's... As if it's swapped, then I can't get through this room. Alright, enjoy your dinner. I'm gonna explain the dungeon for you. Well, you could always give me a hint if you want. I swear to God, if you say you could always jump off ledges, that doesn't help me at all. You do blow up wall? Is there another wall I could blow up? Because I've missed those before. Jump off ledges. Whoa. Blowing my mind, dude. Okay, oh, top floor does nothing until you break all the pillars. Okay, well, what pillar am I missing? We've gotten most of them. That one. So, gotten that one. These right here? Oh, that's those. I think I'm missing this one. Right there. Pretty sure. No? Ow. That got a little awkward. Did blow up the wall. So yeah, maybe I could push my way through here. So to get there, I can go. Realize that 10-year-old have bombs in it. Why does everyone always think he's 10? We don't know that. That might not be the case. I'm sort of wandering in circles at the moment because I'm not paying attention. I like. Ooh, look at that. At the corner. He could be 40. Okay, well, technically possible. Imagine knowing where you're going. Isn't that crazy? Crazy thought. One day I'll figure out where I'm going. I know I'm trying to get to the pillar, but like that's gonna. That's so dumb. Because I can't walk through those. Not this way. I need to go here, right? It's pretty tedious in terms of like having to hit the switch, then run around. Alright, here we go. Over here. Cross here. Here. Are you serious? Okay, so I have to bring the ball in here. Okay, so it's in here. Can I throw it over these? I don't think I can. Yeah, I'm gonna. Ooh, awkward. I have to stop around. Okay. I know I'm supposed to get to there, but I can't go backwards. What happens if I drop this? Oh, it just stays. Okay, cool. It just stays there. That's not frustrating at all. Live stream or therapy session? Walmart parking lot looking for your car. What? Wait, where? Oh, the ball's back where it started. Don't get me started. Well, that's not bad at all. I'm kidding, it's really sad. This is the worst dungeon. Yeah, I suppose so, but then it wouldn't have its main draw, I guess. See Camden. Well, I fell last time and it respawned where I was, but now it goes all the way to the start? Come on. What happens if I... What happens if I use this? Nothing. Okay, well that's good to know. Go around the other way? I guess I can? Question mark? Don't leave this here. I'm not gonna be able to, I mean, you say other way, but... I guess I'll go... Guess I'll die. I'll go around. Well, I fell here. This isn't awkward at all. Where am I trying to go? I was hoping to go here. The problem is bumper. Like, oops. Buddy, get out of the way. Wait, what am I doing? You know what? Probably faster. Oh. Interesting. I'm not gonna risk it. Okay. I did a thing, okay? Oh, I didn't even touch it. I threw it. I did the thing. Is that what I need to do? Oh god. I know. But like that definitely makes me think that's what I gotta do. But where do I drop from there? Who knows? Now I just need to get to here. You did right thing. No, I just don't know even how to get into this room in the first place. Like, I tried pushing all these blocks, but it didn't seem to work, and... Can I jump that corner? That small corner in between the wall and the blue? Question mark? See, this looks so not walkable to me, but it is. Oh my god. Alright, cool. Neato. Oh. The whole new world. Oh, can I just like... That's neat. It's neat how like it collapses together. Alright, completely on. Oh, I can't shield those things on me. Just kidding. Oh my god. Oh, for sure I already had that. Okay. Oh. Not awkward at all. I think the chess puzzle thing is Oh my god. Fun blocks. There's so many ways to push them, and it's like, this feels not useful. Also, I feel like I'm just tired. I'm pretty sure I missed something. Yeah. Okay, let's go back real quick. What's this is how I get back out, I guess? It's so, like, I'm so afraid to enter the boss room before I've seen every room. No, I'm just gonna go. Wait, just kidding. No, I'm gonna go. Wait, no, just kidding. Wait, 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 wait. Wait, what happens if I... But I'm not gonna hold back. I wish you were never born. He makes me think of, ooh, the bird. Well, a bird. Evil eagle. And he's like legal eagle, but evil. Yeah, it's boomerang time. Got him. Hey, what's up, Carol? My energy gone. I lost. But you will be lost too if the windfish wakes. Same as me. You are in his dream. I don't know. I just beat you up with a boomerang, so I think I'm winning. And, whatever you say isn't God. And the boomerang's just floating there still. Ta-da! You did it. Yeah. Whee! That's how you sacrifice. Sokka wins. Rusty boomerang. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, it's the piano. The organ of evening calm. Neato. We didn't get an item from this dungeon, did we? And that makes me sad. I was really hoping for something. Shield. Oh, we did. I guess the shield. I forgot about that. Ocarina, the music of the ocarina leads somewhere. Okay, well, we got that. Can we finally go somewhere over here? Music it up. Is it dumb to immediately get out of the dungeon and use a hint tree? No, it's not, because I've given up on exploring. I'm gonna do just that. Bring. Head of the turtle is in your way. Put life into it, and it'll move. It's true. Bye. Click. Okay. Well, thanks, buddy. How about another? The Joe jokes. Head of a turtle. I see that. I see that head. I don't know how to get there. I guess right there. Can I like go through here? Yeah, days. I like me some juju. Attacking the power of juju. Oh, no. I've never figured out how to get to this section of the mountain. See these. I don't think I can really do anything in there. Over bridge. Here? Oh, that's right. Isn't there a... I think I... You do somewhat average adventure? Yeah, okay. Now, I think I remember going in there and there was something I couldn't interact with. We're so close. That was where heart was. I remember that much. Dojo C was somewhat strange. Yeah, I could believe it. Oh. Hi, what's up? Hey, Link. Monster put me here. What should I do? I'm afraid of heights. Move. Oh, she just jumped on. Marin, I'm here to block the moment. Marin. No! You teach me a song! Teach me a song! Marin almost took the kid. Marin! Ow! Alright, whatever. We can teleport back to the Mape Village later. Hey, bird. What's up? You took the children? A girl sang her song in front of the egg. How do I finish the song? You did it with that. Cool. I just given up on reading what he says. Wait, so there's this. Goes to here. Is that okay? Another way. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we didn't have the hook shot last time. Going through here. Progress! Oh god, Goldberg. Progress! Look at that little birdie. That's definitely teleportation. Oh, wait, does that just reflect all projectiles? I think that's what happened just now. I saw that teleportation, but I can't get to it. I think I need to go up. Oh, look at that! Interesting. Awkward. I'm assuming it was the bomb at that point. Yeah, I can see the crack in his head. That's a telltale sign. But this is not a telltale. Done is so much better. You think so? Oh, I can see his face! I have the magic cream, so if I die, I'm fine. Hey, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but, you know what? You know, I'm just not gonna say anything. Well, look at this. Not gonna say. Boomerang time. Save the turtles. I'd rather fight the turtle. The straw is my weapon. It's a joke. Okay. Yeah, we've definitely seen this guy before. Oh no. I'm not gonna bother saying anything. Don't worry about it. Oof. Oh, what the? Okay. Huh. Interesting. Very dark. Got a school? No. Okay. Hey, Tackle Light 10? I'm not saying anything, but if you happen to be the same person making multiple accounts just to beg for attention, please don't. It's, really fake. Or, you have the weirdest collection of family members ever, and I'm not playing along, so, yeah. Please don't, if that's the case. And if it's not, then just stop trying to beg for attention. That's the feeling I'm getting. If you want to practice your creative writing skills, you can do that somewhere else. They're just throwing all the bosses at this point, aren't they? Welcome. Compass. Jump. Can I not push that? Oh. You can kill the portal thing? Oh. I've never been able to before. I guess maybe the boomerang can do it. The boomerang is magical. I think we all know that at this point. I thought the key would bring it'd bring me the key, but that's not. Oh, Pixie speech? Oh! Right, no, I forgot about that. Yeah, no, that's a thing. I did that. What happens? Oh god. Alright, well he just drowns. That's cool. I'm curious. Oh, this isn't an annoying room. Break all the pots. Really? Gonna give me nothing? Okay, I'll take a fairy, I guess. How does Link not die? It's just magic. That's really it. As Nintendo. Pretty much. Eat. Run away! It's just very goopy salsa. Okay, Tackle Light. Yeah, you're 100% just the same person making accounts. Beg for attention. So, yeah, you're gonna start getting timed out if you keep doing that. Pick the one account, leave it there. That boss reminds me of Gang Orca from My Hero Academia. I don't know why, but just like something about the aesthetic screams Gang Orca. Let's go down for what's down there. You hear the Mario music. Get the man. Awkward. Okay, so we got that. Why is that funny to me? Not. It's not supposed to be funny. Okay. We got the map. Let's go back. There's another way we can go. Dude, I love new Super Mario U. Man, these ropes are obnoxious. Oh yeah, this way. This is a big dungeon, holy crap. And it's the shape of a turtle. Dude, but the salsa, it's so... By the way, we haven't... They called ropes, yeah. No! No! Not again with the crystals! Jack and boy, I'll time you out if you keep asking. Seriously. Fair shot. Really? You're gonna just give me treasure chest, but nothing. I hate the crystal mechanic. So annoying. Oh yeah, it's BTST time. BTSD. BTST time. If I push up. Oh, I control it. Oh. Oh, no, okay, I think I get it. Yeah. Crap. Whoops. I was like, wait a second. I knew I was doing it wrong at the last moment. It's like for some reason this makes me think of Rob the Robot. You know what I mean? All right, we got another key. We can go with this. Oh, you think I couldn't, but I did. I did it. Am I supposed to do that? I don't know, but I'm gonna go this way instead. Shaky and annoying? Yeah, I don't know. Very cold. Okay, well, that's good to know. Really? Break it? Or can I on it? No, hurt him. I don't have any fire. Wait. Okay, well, so where else? Yes. Found. Get to rob the robot. Nope. We've yet to actually go straight. Come on. Try again. It's so unresponsive. Okay, so now I can get to. Oh. Awkward. I didn't think this would it up. Yeah, it's rewind time. I'm just gonna teleport back to the start. Like, it's fine. Smash, I mean, all the Smash games have really good music. Now, I can go this way, right? Why? Just to get back. Why do I keep doing this to myself? That's what I get for looking at stuff. Yeah. Rewind time. Hey, what's up, Nutella? Okay. Back at it again. Right. Go this way first. Is this ice? No, it's not ice, but something. Items! Awkward. Okay. Back we go. Ow. Look at all that salsa. Bomberman time. Yes, I am in America. Wish I could put more than one bomb down at a time. Okay. I swear to God. Rabid Luigi for life, or whatever your name is. If you come back on your Princess account, and you're like, whoa, I missed my brother! I am going to ban you from the channel. I swear to God. I'm just saying that right now, okay? I'm just throwing it out there. I don't want to hear it. I know you're going to. I can see through your very poor attempts at creative writing. Oh, E. I'm just throwing it out there. I can feel it in my bones. If you say something like that, it's gonna happen. These things again. Always with these things. These things are the bane of my existence. Eat. Really? You're not gonna... I bring you a nice hot meal. I slaved over stove for this. I don't need to kill him yet? Okay, fine. But I want... They're so weird and goopy, and it just... Something about them unsettles me. Or something about them is very unsettling. You know how it goes. Oh, from the balcony? Alright, thanks. Oh. This... Oh my god, it finally happened! We finally had to shoot them. The Dongo snakes? Oh yeah, that's a good name for them. Really? You're gonna just... Yeah. Keys! Keys everywhere. And not the bats. Wait, can bombs light these? I've never tried. No. Have fun with that bomb. I'm not gonna do that. Go backwards a sec. Ow. If this is the B, I'm gonna be sad. No, money! I'll take money. Money's cool. Catch you later, Carol. Hey, what's up, Toasty? Yeah, it's been a long time since I streamed. And also just... time is ever marching forward. Our inevitable demise. I mean, how's your Thursday going? Wow, did they really make it so I could go like halfway through the dungeon? That's cool. I like that. That's nice. Considerate of them. Am I going fishing? I feel like I'm going fishing right here. Grab it! Grab it! It's on top of him. Hey Princess, are you done making different accounts? Cool if you were. One more. Oh, they were nice in the original? You think so? See, we got a chest. See you later, Jeff. Wow, 3 small keys at once, huh? A lot of small keys. I'm not trying to be weird. That's not what I said. Oh, cool. Good job answering the question. More creme. Man, such a useless drop though. Wait, what? Oh. It's just... Oh, I already had some, so I put it back. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm just gonna put the whole... I don't want to draw attention to it. I want like a don't go back here icon. We can go this way, but I can't jump that. I don't... A lot of ways we can go. Right into the salsa. Oh, look at that jump. I knew I could do it. What's your most accomplished Zelda series? Like, which Zelda have I, like, 100% beaten? I think Majora's Mask is really the only Zelda game I've ever properly beaten. Oh, here we go. We can go across this way. Spicy salsa now. Alright, we're over here now. Crap, we're over here now. Workout? Alright. So, from here... Oh, right, we can go here. Oh, oops. Ooh, lots of keys needed. Is this Progresso soup? Looks like Progresso soup. Progresso as in like, this looks like progress. That's what I'm trying to say. Whoops. Oh, wait. Alright. No! No! Not like this! The one time the crystals pop up. This is the worst! Not the crystals. Whatever. You wanna fight? Fight you. Be a little Mac? Gotcha. He just knocked me out of the room. Holy crap. It's a little Mac. Okay, try again. I feel like it's unfair for me to use a sword against dude boxing. Hop through jabs. He's the kind of guy to spam up tilt in Smash. Is this what it's like, Marth against a Little Mac? But a Little Mac that knows how to punish with jabs? Alright, there we go. I think it used to be that he knocked you out of the dungeon. My god, that'd be rough. No! What is the point? Okay, so where is the stupid crystal? Is it that one? Right there? I think it is. We have to go hit the thing and come back. At least there's a warp. Yeah, that's true. Oops. I like how they always... I like how they fall after me. Whoops. You have a Wii U? Yes, of course I have a Wii U. Ta-da! We did it. Dora. We did it. Whoa, we got the magic rod. You can burn things. Burn it. Burn it all down. Was this written by Marin? What? Okay. Fire time. Yeah. Fire time. Okay. Sorry, I don't actively use my Wii U. I'm not going to, friend you. No offense or anything, I haven't hooked the thing up in a while. Oh, dang it. Get God. Well, that's something. Okay, so from here we can go to the room that needs projectile fire. Okay, hey, I'm not. The last time I'm gonna say anything. Princess Isabel, or however your name's supposed to be said, because you have a bunch of numbers in there. I'm not trying to, make you feel bad or anything, right? Just you keep trying to draw attention to yourself. Please stop that. That's all. Okay? And then I won't have an issue. That's the last time I'll say anything about that. And, small key. Got another small key. Can we get this chest down here? Whoops. That was awkward. There we go. Is this the beak? It's probably the beak. What do you think of the game's art style? I really like the game's art style. I think it's really cute. In fact, if they did more of the old school Zelda games in this style, I'd be very happy. A Zelda 1 remake in this style? Oh boy. Hit me up with that. That'd be really cool. Okay, so where do I need to go? Oh, the ice. Right, we need to find the places that need ice. Ice is nice. I think this one is one of them. Pretty sure. Sold one for $50. No, I mean, if they update it properly, then yeah, why not? I don't mind. I mean, that's all considering if they updated it with proper amount of care, if that makes sense. Game's too short? Well, sure. I don't know. I mean, yeah. Made the game longer? Yeah. Feel that? Oh my god, why do I keep doing it? Oh, you know what? Am I not supposed... it might be that I'm not supposed to go this way. Now that I think about it. But I'm going this way. Can't stop me. I already failed. I already failed. Oh, hey. What was that? I heard a noise. Was that my Twitch? I think it was for Twitch. Weird. Okay, whatever. There we go. Now we can get through. Imagine Zelda 1 but 3D open world. Okay, we don't have the light. We don't have the nightmare key. That's unfortunate. Oh yeah, boss room time. Okay, well, back over here. Hey, what's up, hunters? It's key time. Oh boy, this thing again. Four Seasons Sunflower. Interesting. Yeah, I've been enjoying the remake. I mean, like I said, I mentioned this before, but I've never really beaten Link's Awakening, like the original, or even the what is it, DX or whatever. So I'm really glad to have this version, personally. Also, yeah, no, I think having Minish Cap in this style would be fantastic. It'd be so cool. I would pay so much money for that. 'Cause I really like Minish Cap quite a lot. Can I use it? Okay, no. Oh, you can't even do that. Interesting. Man, people get so upset about game prices these days. I mean, I don't think this is overpriced at all. What do you want from a $60 game? Does it have to be AAA? Because AAA games these days almost all have stupid microtransactions, gacha mechanics, and this and that. It's like, this is just like a fun experience, and it's a nice game. What's wrong with that? Okay, so I think I have to go. Actually, will this work? Oh no, this will work. Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if I'd give this in one go. I had a crappy couple days on. Sorry, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I've lots of. Okay. Nightmare key. Woo. All right. So I know where to go for that. Almost done with this dungeon. Oregon Trail card game? That's a thing? I've never heard of that. I'm not upset. It's just that it's $6 on 3DS. You mean the original? The original with none of its improvements? You're complaining that the one with all the improvements more? Like I don't understand. Like I just personally I don't see the logic there. They remade the game, so they're charging full price. Nothing wrong there. Like if it was a lazy re-release, then I would understand the complaints. But pretty solid game. What's wrong with it being full price? Well, I wasn't saying you were complaining, but your comment made it sound as if there was something wrong with that. Whoops. I love the tippy taps when he goes, Nyum. That's my favorite part. Love that part. Alright, we're almost done with this dungeon. Oh boy. Yakko whoosh, you're finished. I'll never let him play the instrument of the sirens. Boo boo. Oh my god, he's a fire boy. Good thing I got a thing. Oh, Hothead. Solid name. Oh boy. Good thing I got. Ooh, interesting. Can I walk across those? Okay. Why does a fire rod? Okay. You know what? I'm not gonna question it. No, I am gonna question it. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Fire the fire boy. I guess I could try hitting him again. Why does that deal damage, though? You know what? I'm just gonna hang out here, okay? Okay. Draco, why'd you, if you were nothing would change, you can always win fish. You were in a dream. Boo boo. Hothead is made of salsa. And from my Pokemon knowledge, fire beats salsa. You know what? That's a good point. That's true. It was such a lackluster fight. Because obviously I could have done more, but like, that just seems like... If that's a viable option, then like, what's the point? Oh my god, it's a drum! The Thunder Drum! The Thunder Drum goes... Some things just translated bad. Yeah, no, I feel that. Fire beating fire. Yeah. It's salsa time. Egg. Just egg. The egg of the mountain calls. It's a rat. Let's try to beat the game now. Let's try that. That'd be cool. Oh god, don't hurt me, please. Okay. Yeah. Get off me. You just summoned Sandstorm? I don't know what you're talking about. Time to get the kids back from yeah. You took the kids. I don't know if you know this, but that's the canon story we've discovered. Honestly, I'm sure there's something else I have to do, but like, we're just gonna go here first. Kidding. Back. Let's go get Marion. What game is this? It's called Marion Took the Kids, aka Link's Awakening, 2019. Well, the 2019 is just differentiated because they chose this exact same name as the first one. Second, let me check here. Nothing. Right, let me check the other game real quick. Let's see if there's anything new. Jacoboy, let's not. Don't start anything. Just focus on the game. The game being, hey Marin, keep your kids. There's a nice ocarina you have there. Will you accompany me as I sing? So pretty. Do we ever get to hear her, like, the vocalized version in the game? Yes, it really does stick in my mind. You learn the Ballad of the Windfish. Always remain in your heart. Don't ever forget the song, or me. Thank you for everything, Link. You're the kindest boy I know. One day, I made a wish. I can't speak. I made a wish to the Windfish. What was that wish? It was? No, it's a secret. It's a secret to everyone. Okay. For real though, do we ever get to hear the vocal version of the song in the game? Like, I really want to know. Because I want to hear it. No? No! Oh my god, what a travesty. With our powers combined, we form Captain Music! Oh yeah, if you look it up, you can find the English and Japanese versions of the song. It's really good. Just look up Ballad of the Windfish English version, and you'll find it. It's so pretty. I've listened to it so many times. The route I have to take, I have no idea what you're talking about. No, I definitely died. Yeah, I failed that long ago. Let's go into that egg. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm not gonna get the secret. Hi, bird. The time has come. The Windfish awaits. Enter the egg. Hoot hoot. Alright, it's a little weird, but okay. The exit's on dungeon, right? It's oddly moist. How am I supposed to learn the route? Ow. So this is basically like the Lost Woods. Library? Ah, gross. I don't like that at all. I guess I can. I'll do that real quick. Maybe Village? It's just called Mabe. There's no Y. It's all the aloe vera? Gross. Aloe vera is gross. Like aloe vera drinks is... Duh. I don't like it one bit. You reading in my video game? Exactly. Possibly Village. There we go. That's a bit more accurate. Ow. Like how the wolves always hit you for, like one hit, like hit for tap. Or, like you're not gonna get away from me. Okay, this is the secret book. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna take a picture of this so I don't have to like try to remember. So don't bother telling me, I already have it on my phone. Alright. Aloe juice? Okay. No, I'm good. Why? I never got one item. But like, I don't know. The dungeon creator needs to be online. Then it's basically Mario Maker, and that's fantastic. That's what we need. We need... Aloe juice is a thing? Yeah, it is. It's not like awful or anything. It's just like, it's not my thing. The path was different for you? Interesting. Either way, I have the route, so I'm gonna follow that. Okay, so from, I'm assuming this one, this way, the tippy taps in the water is not cool. And what? Hey, gross. This whole place is unsettling. We were born of nightmares! To take over this world, we made the windfish sleep endlessly. If the windfish doesn't wake up, the island will never disappear. We would have been the masters of this place, but you had to come here and disrupt our plan. Let's rumble. Is this a boss fight? Or I mean boss rush? Feels like a boss rush. Maybe it's not. It is, I lied to you. Dang, you got me. If I don't even remember this one. And it was like 3 days ago. Don't I have to like run into it or something? No? Powder! Powder. Right, okay. Totally forgot. Dude, I'm gonna run through all my powder before I hit it. Okay, let's see if I can remember the rest of them. Oh, oh yeah, this wasn't, we haven't fought, wait, have we run into this guy before? I don't remember ever fighting him. Oh. Aghanim! It's agony! Life! Aghanim! Yeah, the hitbox on this isn't very clear in my opinion. What we got? Okay, so, alright, let's focus. Is Shaperoo, is, oh yeah, it's the burger. I love the burger. I love burger. Burger time. Oh boy, that is straight up Ganon. Sprint tech over to Spirit Throat? Okay. I could even hit him. Awkward. Wait, can I? I'm not gonna bother. We're gonna try something, but I'm not gonna bother. Dang it. Well, I mean, all the phases have been awkward for me. Oh my god. Pegasus boots? I'll do it. I know you mean after the spin. Three-fourths of a heart? I'm fine. I have magic cream and I have... Oh. I have stuff I can do. What do I even do here? Okay. Yeah, I have fairies also. It's not that big a deal. Here's the awkward. Oh, okay. Spin attack is magical because it hits everything apparently. Everything gets hit by the spin attack. Oh, is this Progresso? This is the final boss. Or final dungeon, I suppose. Oh, arrows. Said boomerang, you say? That didn't work. Boomerang works here at least. That's something. The goomerang! Those was working too. Do you hear the spooky version of the Windfish ballad? It's in the background. Dude, look at him! Look at those arm stretches. Oh, how long have I played? For me, it's been a total of about 10 hours. But this could be done in more like 5. Because I did a stream of like 3 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, and now we're at like 3 hours, something like that. So, about 10. Probably decent. I mean, but like I mentioned before, I haven't been very fast. Oops. Dude, his arm stretch is so good. There you go. Island's gonna disappear. The world is gonna disappear. Our world. Our world. Yeah, a dungeon could have been cool. That sort of boss, whatever, felt really weird, but okay. You beat all the nightmares, climb stairs before you. Ooh, magic. Hoots, young lad. I mean Link, the hero. You have defeated the nightmares. You have proven your wisdom, courage, and power. As part of the Windfish spirit, I am the guardian of this dream world. One day, the nightmares entered the dream and began wreaking havoc. Then you, Link, came to rescue the island. I have always trusted in your courage. I knew that you could turn back the nightmares. Thank you, Link. Our work is done. The Windfish will wake soon. Goodbye, Hoot. Oh. How long it'll take? Probably like 4 more days. Or 4 days ago, who knows. Dot 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 dot. I am the windfish. I have wonderful eyelashes, apparently. In my dreams, an egg appeared. It was surrounded by island with people and animals, an entire world. But verily, it be the nature of dreams to end. When I dost waken, Kohlint will be gone. Only the memory of this dreamland will exist in the waking world. Someday, thou may recall this island. That memory makes the dream world real. Boop, 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 boop. Let's us waken together. Play the 8 instruments, play the song of awaken. Wait, was that the final fight? Was that the final boss fight, that nightmare stuff? Yeah, that was so okay. I'm hearing no, yes, yeah, yep. That was so anticlimactic. Oh my god! I was like, oh, clearly there's something else after this. What? Oh my god. That was disappointing. That's what I'm saying. Okay, yeah. See you later, Marin. You can have the kids. I don't want them. They're not real. Did he just like shoot me out of his blowhole? Or up using his blowhole or something? Something weird like that? Oh, anime! It's anime time! Okay, I'll be quiet. We're just gonna leave him there. I'm assuming, from what I understand, the secret ending is we see her fly away as a bird. But from there, it's like, oh, that was so nice. Now I'm gonna die of starvation. Okay, technically, you die of dehydration out in the ocean. Oh, sorry. With the kids, yes, the 2 little baby seagulls. That was a fun game. I do feel like, yeah, maybe they could have adjusted some stuff. Wakes up just to drown. I mean, what do you do? Like, you're just dead. I'm gonna let the credits play. It's been a long time since I actually did a stream and then finished the game. I'm glad I got to do that at least. But I really wanted to hear the lyrical version. And I don't know how... So... I think it's only in the advert. I guess it's only an advert that you can actually get the, whatever. Honestly, if they had the Dungeon Maker become its own side game, that's Mario Maker but for Zelda. Do it.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
IQ translation, excuse me? Excuse me, what? I thought the IQ was gone years ago, but maybe not. Ooh. Ooh, retro. I like it. Yeah, make a dungeon maker. Give an option so you can have more finely tuned custom chambers. God damn it, Nintendo. You should be able to see money when it's right in front of you. Right there. When fishes are like, thanks for saving me. I'm gonna just leave you here. Bye. Nintendo and Grizo are the authors of the software for the purchase copyright. All rights reserved. I didn't get to read it that fast. Nintendo co-developed by Grizo. The end, sucker. So yeah, like I said, the secret was the bird. Is that it? Am I correct there? If I don't die, the burb. Save or cleared game. I'll save. Oh. I'll save on this one. Yeah, in Marin's face? Okay. Oh, hey, was Grizo behind some of the other remakes? Good on them. Well, we could just watch the opening cutscene again. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoy the stream. Time for hero mode? Oh god, actually I don't know. Is that an option? Hero mode? Can't copy that? Oh, because I have others. Well, it just gets me back here. I guess I could always do more stuff, but is there a hero mode? I'll look it up. Is there a hero mode? It's looking like no. Well, I mean, hero mode as in you can start from the beginning in difficult, but you can't really do anything else. Real life hero mode? Oh. But I'm correct in understanding the only hero mode is the one you get from starting the game fresh, right? Yeah, okay, yeah. Cool. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm not going to stream this again, but I may or may not do a stream of Untitled Goose Game, because that looks like a lot of fun, and people have been suggesting it. Also looks like it'd be something stupid I could goof around with for an hour and then quit. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. That's it for this one. I have more stuff to do, but I'm not going to bother with it right now. I mentioned before, I will probably do a video on this game. What that will be, I don't know, but I now have a completed file. I have a file where I'm partway through with Marin, so I have options. But anyways, yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. I have a Discord you can join if you want. Link in the description. You also do !Discord to get a link. Good work. Follow me on Twitter if you want to hear me tweet every like 5 days. All right, see you later. Bye.